Yeah, hope you can see the presentation.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. So to introduce myself, I'm Siddharth. I'm working as a business development manager with Devidal Solar Solutions since the company has incorporated in 2015, and we are a solar refrigeration firm providing cooling solutions to our customers. Capacity wise, the product ranges from 30 liters to 250 liters for both off grid as well as the V grid solutions. And we have deployed almost around 1500 units till date. The value chains we have covered mainly dairy, fisheries, fruit pulp, wet vaccine, livestock, and petty shops. Uh, our products are certified and tested from different agencies, which makes the product globally acceptable. Like Intertech, IEC, Virasol certified products we have. Then we were the finalist of Global Leap Awards 2019. CPRI lab tested our products are. So this is it. And now we have also applied for the patents, mainly for you can say pay as you go enabled refrigerator and also for IoT based DC refrigerator. So as I said, now our refrigerators are pay as you go enabled systems. Uh, we have partnered with Angaza to use this platform, and it's now available. We are working with Efficiency for Access to pilot a few of the products in India itself, like 45 units, and we are working on it. Once it is done, it is like available for export purposes as well.
Siddharth,
We also, yeah, sure.
we can't actually see you changing the slides. At least I
Oh,
can.
oh,
I can just see your main screen.
oh, okay. Now
Yeah,
it is
this
visible.
works. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So we also have RMS system, which help us to monitor our solutions by calculating different parameters like internal ambient temperatures and voltage current of the system to understand total energy consumed by the system. So we are also using it. So hundreds of units have already been deployed in different locations. If we talk about the end user financing, one project has been done in India itself. It was based out of UP, Uttar Pradesh, in India, the state. We had deployed almost around 425 units. You can see the different typologies we have covered. Uh, it's sweet shop, dairy, medical stores, hotels, meat shops. We have covered, and mainly the demand was for 200 liters, and all the 425 units have been deployed with the end user financing thing. It was mainly interest subvention by us, so it was provided with 0% interest rate to our end users, mainly especially to the women. So yeah, this is it. I won't take much time. This is my contact details. You can contact me anytime for more details. Thank you so much, Carlos.
Thanks a lot, Siddharth. Pity we couldn't see the slides moving, but thanks a lot for your
Oh,
time.
oh, oh,
No,
so
no
so
worries.
sorry.
We
Yeah.
saw the last couple of slides, but no
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
We will share all the slides with
Sure.
everyone.
Sure.
Um, and this is just an appetizer or a way to stimulate the conversation in the room. Obviously, DDSolar has done it in a way, but we would love to know how like some of you are doing in the cooling space. Particularly, the conversation today is on finance and funding and how what are the challenges that you're facing, etc. So I will we've prepared a backdrop screen. Hopefully you can see that. Maybe Natalie, you can tell me if you see the screen. With no, you don't see the
No,
screen.
not yet. I still see the screen
Oh,
from that
okay.
Siddharth was presenting. Yes.
Let me try to share again. So we have prepared some about yeah. Now, can you see that now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is the some questions as a sort of provoking the conversation following Siddharth's presentation and also getting you some of you in the room. We've prepared some questions for companies, but also questions for investors in the financial side of the things, including questions such as, like what are the main challenges the company are facing, or what sort of financing, like have you found the most effective for the cooling solutions that you are commercializing? Like you have like 6, 7 questions there for companies. Maybe Siddharth, we can come back to you and to start the conversation. But also there's some questions for the investors, such as, like where are you looking? What are the sectors that you're looking at as most appealing to you? Also, what is the, how important social and environmental impacts are for your decision-making processes, or what are the key elements do you look at in a business model, right? So that companies also can learn from your optics and considerations. So maybe, Siddharth, why don't you start the conversation by telling us what are the main challenges that DDSolar is facing when securing financing, and we take it from there.
Yeah, Carlos. Actually, we have been contacting different banks or financial institutions for the same to get the end user financing. But all of us who are working in the same ecosystem, we know that they are looking for some security. So they are looking for FLDG or some kind of security. So like n number of financial institutions we have contacted for the same, but hardly one or two we have been able to involved with. But now like pay as you go is in place, so we hope that now the products are are more financially viable for them, the banks and the institutions. So it was hard for us to like make them understand. Through different agencies we have been able to like cover the FLDGs thing with the help of those institutions. But still we are like struggling to get a financial partner who can provide the finance to end users who doesn't have banking credibility in the market. So this is very hard to like get.
Thanks, Siddharth. Yeah, obviously commercial banks and end users finance is one of the key challenges. Maybe just to continue on this conversation, Natalie, and or I can see also Kerry in the room. Maybe you can also tell us what are the main challenges that your companies are facing in terms of the finance, and also talk a bit about the any innovative financing mechanisms that you're at the moment exploring and looking at, and how those, and from the investor's perspective, please. I mean, I would love the folks and colleagues from the World Bank, also from CEI, Persistent and Green Max, to see how much their financial mechanisms align with the needs from the companies. Over to you, Natalie and Kerry.
Yeah, thank you, Carlos. I was shaking my head because I think that we as well experience this phenomenon where we'd like to access commercial debt financing, for example. And in the context of, in this case, we were looking for debt in Nigeria, then the local banking system is requiring guarantees or collateral, which companies like Coolbox and others wouldn't have necessarily the ability to support. So while we do think that we could access debt financing to support the growth, and that would fit within our business model and having positive unit economics, et cetera, there is this barrier. And so it keeps us from this kind of this vicious cycle. You don't have the access to the financing, so you can't produce the products, and then you can't reach the end goal, which is to find the customers. So I definitely think that if we were to think about kind of ways to support the companies in the sector, could there be guarantee facilities that are specifically kind of targeted, so that when we have viable, let's say, lending offers, that we would be able to have an additional support being able to meet those requirements. To answer your second question about other things that we're looking at, rather than using debt to finance such working capital needs, we're looking into securitization of receivables. I think there have been a couple of deals recently in the space, which are encouraging for us. So something that would give us the ability to raise additional capital without leveraging our balance sheet. And I know there's a question in the chat, which I thought was quite interesting, from Claire. How did you land on 0% interest rate being the best way to support end users to access your products? Did you try any other mechanisms? And do you find the 0% interest rate being more suitable to smaller, large capacity units?
Yeah, to answer this, we took it on our own actually. Somehow we had to support and somehow we had to deliver the products. So it was around 10.08%. So we took all the burden of the interest rate on our own to make this product accessible to the underprivileged society actually. So it was hard for us. The profit was not much, but it was we were not at loss at least. And now we can say that if someone is interested in our product, as like financial institutions and all, to support us, we have something in the market, in on the field, to showcase them actually. So just to start with, we took this burden on our own.
But in effect, you have to pay for it yourselves. It's like you still have a cost associated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thanks, Natalie. Thanks, Siddharth. There is also a question by Raya. I believe, Raya, you're with us. Thanks for joining. Also on the comparison between challenges that cold rooms face compared to refrigerators and freezers. We have a couple of experts in the room on cold rooms. Maybe, I don't know if Leo, you can provide a bit of your thoughts initially, and then also we have Buzz. I believe, Buzz, you're also in the room, so you're also very welcome to join.
I think the bottom line is maybe there's a parallel for that. Well, okay. So thank you, Carlos. Hi, everyone. Leo Blythe. I've been working with the World Bank Group with the off-grid solar sector building from Lighting Africa days back in 2008, and with E4A under the Energy Saving Trust on the pure appliance sector for the last 6 years. And so for me, a lot of what I think the critical opportunity we have as GOGLA and as this group is what have we learned from the last 15 years so that we can avoid making the same mistakes. Let's make new mistakes, as I like to joke. And so for there, it really is what are all the financing mechanisms? Yeah, what's all the experience? We've got a great piece of work from Lighting Global that documents all the financing mechanisms that have been tried over that period. Let's have a look at them, compare and contrast for what's needed with Pure. There's also this work with that's being done now, right? With the results-based financing facility of GOGLA and the World Bank, looking at productive use. So I think that's the bigger picture. It's hard to answer this in a few seconds, but for those of us who have known the off-grid sector, I wonder if there's like a parallel here between solar lanterns and solar home systems. If you look at the order of magnitude, at the beginning, what we used to say was selling solar lanterns was fast-moving consumer goods. For those of you marketing experts, you know, it was really hardcore FMCG business. I think maybe the same, and I'd love to learn from you. Now here we are with a fridge and a freezer is a white good, but really, you know, is it maybe a bit more akin to that FMS, you know, fast-moving consumer good kind of concept? And then we have a walk-in cold room. So bottom line right now, looking at about $1,000 minimum asset price to the end user for a solar fridge freezer, often as much as up to 3,000, depending on the use. Whereas walk-in cold rooms currently minimum $30,000 landed installed cost, often hearing 50,000. So there you go, 1 to 3,000, 30 to 50,000. Obviously, there's going to be differences in financing. Yep.
I would add as well that the the use case is quite different. And so
Absolutely. I
the
just didn't get a
upfront
chance to get
cost,
there yet.
upfront cost combined with the different sectors that would be served by a walk-in cold room, it makes the business model completely different. So when we get that question as Coolbox, we understand that the technology has a similar purpose, which is for preservation. But from the business perspective, they're quite different business models.
Absolutely. I suppose the point, Natalie, is you could work, I like to think like bottom up and top down. So there's top down, you know, there's bottom up, different approaches. But what I was getting at is surely there's a case for infrastructure investment for walk-in cold rooms, as opposed to how hard would it to be arguing that a fridge should be paid for under infrastructure investment. And so that's, I think we haven't seen yet, but that would be to me the biggest opportunity here, to look at how is infrastructure invested in, with repayment periods of 5 to 10 years, etc. Very different. Anyway, I know the whole meeting seems at time now. I'd love to explore more. I'd say later it'd be really good to look into this whole implications of asset financing, if you like, for products that are out there when you need huge volumes of them and huge amounts of money is the bottom line, right, Natalie? How is that to be financed? Whether it's for a fleet, and maybe that's where it's a bit different. If companies are going to be operating dozens, maybe hundreds of $30,000 minimum investments, as opposed to the pay-go business where you have what, 1 year, 2 year repayment on hopefully tens of thousands of solar fridges. I think that's what you're getting at, Carlos, and I can't really answer, but I think this is the group to explore that. And I haven't seen any answers yet. I think that they're really needed, to find out what does it look like at scale. We can talk about here, we can talk about how we get to. I think we need a better idea of where we're going. What does it look like? And then what does financing look like at scale so that we can have a better idea?
Yeah, I love the idea, Leo, getting a clear picture of the level of finance we need to scale up all these solutions. And that number or those numbers are not yet there. So I think it's one of the objectives we have. I see Kerry raising her hand, but also Bas, you're also unlocking your camera. I don't know. Yes, maybe Bas, if you have the answer to Leo's question, go ahead, and then Kerry, you can follow.
Sorry, no, I don't have the answer to Leo's question. We are working on that. But I think the interesting part is also with you working together with the agriculture more and more is that also the demand. So Raya was talking about the barriers. One of the big restraints, for example, is the implementation of food safety regulation. As soon as you start doing that, there will be an explosion of demand for productive use of energy, like cooling solutions, because then it becomes mandatory for animal-based products. So it's also that collaboration which should be stimulated, and kind of the different barriers between the more refrigerators, which can be applied to small, medium businesses, and the walk-in cold rooms more for the commercial size agriculture. So we also have to think in those different barriers, I think, is what I like to contribute, combined with the financing mechanism.
Thanks, very important. Yeah, the different elements that we usually do not contemplate, including safety regulations. Thanks, Bas. I mean, I personally don't know much about that, so anything you have, you can share with the group. Kelly, over to you.
Yeah, my point is quite similar to Baz's, but so moving a little bit away from the financing aspect, solely focusing on that, but sort of looking at the market need as to projects. And I think very often, and it still feels that we look at situation solutions in isolation as opposed to the whole cold chain. So I think when we talk about this, we need to start thinking wider. And this kind of builds on our experience from within the vaccine cold chain space, where we've been doing this for 14, 15 years. you need to think about that end-to-end kind of cold chain as well, and there won't be one solution that fits all. There'll be different market scenarios, different situations where we need to flex the product, or where we really need to kind of think on our heads about actually combining products together, and looking at how we solve that, and also looking at working collaboratively across the industry as well, because I think, again, we tend to think in isolation, and I think there could be better market-based solutions and market solutions if we look at that whole ecosystem of the cold chain.
Thanks, Kelly. That's also very important. It's multidimensional sectors and how to bring together different projects and sectors, which we are trying at GOGLA, but I can tell you it's not an easy one. But with support from you, I think we can also find better guidance, sometimes in specific complex areas of such as health or cooling. But yeah, getting there definitely, and things are moving. I would love to hear from, I think, Robert, you're still in the room, and I would love to hear how, from the investors or financiers' point of view, are these topics taking? I mean, how relevant these topics are in your decision making, and how relevant those are, how mature those are in the portfolio and in the decisions, like I don't like health and cooling from a food regulations point of view, but also the financial point of view, as is being explained by Siddharth or Natalie. All those challenges, are those challenges being taken on board in the programming design that you guys are working with as we speak? Over to you.
Thanks, Carlos. I think I'm wearing two hats here. I'll use the Green Max hat since I think we have in CEI. Let me just put it clear. We can finance all this, but this at least the first phase was working with mini grids. But I guess the challenges will hit us clearly when we launch phase 2, because then we'll have the PURE developers, operators. But then as GreenMax, we already have seen these challenges, and I think one of the solutions we are trying to come up with is one called Green for Africa, whereby we are working with the likes of, we are trying to work with local banks to give loans, and we are G4A is the acronym, is where it gives all collateral up to 20% of a portfolio in terms of losses to local banks to enable them to give loans to developers or to PURE operators. So yes, we have seen these challenges. We are trying to mitigate them in terms of financially, in terms of making them affordable locally, and that is by bringing in the local banks into play. We are working with financiers or donors such as SIDA on this. So I think Nigeria, there is a pilot that is ongoing. We might onboard some pilots in Kenya, or rather we are trying to onboard some banks and then launch some projects. So I think that is what I'd say for now. And just in a nutshell, that yes, we are aware of this and we are finding mitigation processes. So
thanks, Robert. And I would like to join what you just said on commercial banks and credit to companies, and give it back to the companies in the room, because my understanding is that it's pretty hard to work with local banks. Like companies in the room, like I'm looking at Natalie's face now, but also Kerry, Siddharth also. I think we have, Ricky, you're also in the room. I don't know, like, how do you feel about these solutions? Are those, I mean, can they catalyze, change on the ground, or do we still need some other additional elements from your experience? Like maybe it is worth listening to the experience of companies that may have tried this in the past or in the present, but they're still facing some challenges. What are those challenges, based on Robert's reply?
Yeah, I think that the facility that Robert mentioned is a great example of a way to help de-risk the lending to for companies that are smaller and early stage. So I think it's definitely helpful, and it's in that spirit of right now we're not able to effectively work with some of those local financial institutions because they are maybe risk averse to working with smaller companies. And so if there are approaches that can be implemented to de-risk the transaction from the perspective of the local financial institution, I think it could actually be a way to catalyze that investment. Still, there are different stages where you need different types of capital. So in the example of this collaboration with G4A, you still need to have the inventory available to then lend, engage with the financial institution to then lend to the end user. But then there's a stage before where you might need your own company working capital to be able to support production. And there would still be a gap in de-risking that transaction between the company and the financial institution.
Thanks, Natalie. I would love to also pin Charlie. Charlie, you're in the room, right? And get your thoughts on how do we unlock the additional finance that companies need? What are we missing in the cooling space or in the productive use space from the financial point of view? We've seen Ascent as a promising program. What can be the challenges that you think we can find on the way, and how can we mitigate those? Over to you, Charlie. I hope you're in the room.
Thanks, Carlos. That's a big and a broad question. I mean, I think many of the issues have probably already been covered in this group. I mean, on the one hand, I think definitely the technology and the business models need to mature before people can be sort of confident to invest. There isn't that much early stage equity or debt financing out there. So on the one hand, the sector needs to mature to be able to access this kind of finance at a different level of scale. But on the other hand, you need to be asking yourself, how can you use public funding to enable equity and debt investors to invest at a smaller scale, so smaller ticket size, but also to invest into companies at an earlier stage where arguably they're more risky. So I think we have many of the instruments on the table, as Leo was saying. I think we can use results-based financing to support either sales or service over time. We can combine that with access to working capital facilities to ensure that companies are able to procure the stock that they need to be able to participate in results-based financing instruments. But I also think we need to, look again at the role of guarantees and de-risking instruments in the sector. I'm personally very interested in how you can channel public funding. Well, I guess to companies themselves to de-risk them. I hear from recent consultations with investors that there are plenty of companies out there that don't have, sort of fundamental things in place like systems and processes and audited accounts. So wondering if there's potentially a role for some technical assistance around investment readiness, just to sort of overcome some of those foundational issues that investors face when they're looking at companies for the first time. But then on the other side, recognizing that many investors are sort of specialist intermediaries, they're bootstrapping themselves. A few bad deals might have a really significant impact on their viability as a fund. And so wondering if we can take some of the risk and cost pressures off them through, for example, financial support to help cover some of their due diligence costs, standardization of the due diligence process, both on the company side and on the investor side, and obviously risk mitigation through, for example, guarantees, or through taking specific risks off investors, like risks related to off investors and or companies related to things like foreign exchange, which can often be a deal breaker, but also I think climate shocks. So I understand that. I mean, Alex can tell us more, but I understand some of these innovative risk mitigation instruments are under consideration as part of the Ascent program. But really, there's a whole set of tools in the toolbox, and all of them need to be developed. And just recognizing, I think that cooling is an emerging area, and that we can't copy and paste, and that we need to adapt and we need to innovate, and that it'll take us some time to do that. And just from a World Bank perspective, I think it's really important that we learn from the likes of CEI, who've got good experience in this area, and a number of other donor-funded initiatives that are maybe more nimble than we are, maybe have more risk appetite than we do. They're able to test and learn more quickly than our larger programs. But really important that we somehow find a way to learn from their experience and to take their best practice into our work. And that is something that we are very much trying to do at the moment.
Lovely. Thanks, Charlie. I would love to start wrapping up. I mean, I know the time has gone. I love what you're saying, Charlie. I think it's a great way of putting it, right? Like, we need a toolbox of different mechanisms. And for those that were also coming to the End User Subsidy Lab Productive Uses, webinar we had a couple of weeks ago, we were also talking about RBFs and supply side subsidies, demand side subsidies. But demand side subsidies also coming with third party mechanisms. We need the end user credit needs to come. The subsidies need to come with end user credit. It needs to come with different mechanisms. There's not a silver bullet solution. I think you've been talking about some of those that are really required in the cooling space. Replying back to what Natalie was saying before, I love that. Hopefully, Ascent will reply back to that, and hopefully we will also have the space for the private sector voice to be, providing feedback and obviously, having that into consideration for, as Alex was explaining before, redesigning or reframing some of the maybe things that may not be working from phase to the next one. And making it working for all level of companies. I think there's also good news on seed companies receiving more funding, particularly productive use companies, as we hear that from Laura at GOGLA, and a bigger number of productive use companies receiving bigger and growing levels of equity support and grant-based support, which I think is good news. But we still have a lot of work to do ahead of us. I think there are good news, and I can tell you that exciting things are coming. But at the same time, I think we have still a lot of challenges. Before we wrap up, Natalie, do you want to take the last minute and give us a bit of a couple of bullet points of relevant takeaways from today's conversation? We will note them down. We will also share the video with you and the presentations. But please, Natalie, you can help us to wrap up the meeting today, unless there is any final input from anyone. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Carlos. I think I'll stick to one point because I know we're a bit over time. But what was really engaging, at least for me in this conversation, is understanding that the challenges that the companies are facing are in a way already being considered and addressed by other stakeholders within the ecosystem. So that really is encouraging, because then it means that those pain points that we're feeling now in access to finance, there are new solutions, innovative solutions that are coming from the financial services, from other stakeholders that are going to help us unlock the potential for bringing these technologies to the communities that need them the most. So I thank everyone for the engaging discussion.
Thanks a lot, Natalie. Thanks, everyone. We hope to see you at AGM. Some of you are going to be there. And for those who are not going to be there, please keep engaged, keep discussing with us, keep convening. If you are based in Uganda, Kenya, or India, please, we have in-person working groups for productive users. We're also running some other activities and actions. And also, as Patty was talking before, we are also looking at September African Food Systems Forum in Kigali, and that's another way of getting in touch with lots of agricultural stakeholders and tons of business opportunities. So please keep connected with us as well. And thanks, Patty, as well, for your presentation. And thanks, everyone, for connecting today. I hope to see you very, very soon, and have a lovely day.
Thank you, Carlos.
Carlos.
Thank you.